So that's us live. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Yeah.
Hi. Good evening.
So we're here in Edinburgh. We've got an elite gathering of a small number of people here.
Very cool.
But yeah, really interested to hear more about ChangeTip, more about your voyage of discovery to Bitcoin, and I don't know how you want to do it. Just have a general chat. If you want to give us a little bit of intro.
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Victoria. I'm from Canada. I'm from Ottawa, Canada. I've been to Edinburgh for about 4 days before. Beautiful city. Saw the castle. Went to the Three Sisters pub. I think is that what it's called? Yeah. So that was a while ago. My Bitcoin voyage. I've always been interested in why some people have wealth or health or well-being and why some people in the world do not. Ever since I was a child, I just didn't understand how I could have a swimming pool and there are people who didn't have water. I just didn't understand how that could be the case. So I studied international development in school and I did a lot of traveling, and I realized that it all had to do with money. All of it has to do with money and how does money work? And so I started working in investments, insurance, banking, understanding our financial systems in Canada. And of course, 2008, 2009 was an interesting time to get into that kind of work because the world was essentially falling apart. Iceland was going bankrupt and people were losing their homes in the United States and in Canada. So I kept working in that field, but I didn't like it. I didn't like people in my office crying, not understanding money, going bankrupt. Then I learned about Bitcoin, and it seemed to be this perfect convergence of worlds for me, where it allowed me to travel and understand currency, and it showed me that the systems that we have right now aren't really working in the way that benefits a lot of humanity, and it was treated as a speculative vehicle, so it also could apply my my investment mind to that. It just seemed to be calling to me, saying, Victoria, like, this is where you need to be. This is what the future is. The future is not in these systems that we have in place now. So I went to a conference last January in Miami, and it just, like, everything I'd heard about Bitcoin was underground, used to buy drugs, which is not, whatever your political stance is, if it's your choice to do that to your body, it should be your choice. That's my point of view. But when you go and you learn from these people who are building businesses in this ecosystem, it is so much more than this underground currency. It's a way of life, essentially, for me. It is a way of thinking. And for the first time, I was meeting people in my life who weren't, like, looking at me like a stranger. Like, what are you talking about? That you're a conspiracy theorist. They all understood the same things I did. And every time I meet people in Bitcoin, they just get it. They get what I get, and we see the same things and we want to change the same things. So after I went to that conference in Miami, I just completely pivoted my life. I quit everything I was doing. Like a lot of people who learn about Bitcoin, I was just reading about it day and night, doing everything I could to learn about it. And the one part of Bitcoin that fascinated me the most and that I saw the most potential in was social tipping and micropayments. I love the idea that all these people from all over the world can chip in like a quarter or a dollar and have massive social change. So I met Nick Sullivan. He's the CEO of ChangeTip at a conference in last September in Silicon Valley. And it was just like, it was awesome. So he offered me, he said, come work with me, come, let's build something together in this industry with this passion and these things in mind. And I said, absolutely. So I moved from Canada to San Francisco and haven't looked back. That's my story.
So, and ChangeTip's really exploded, hasn't it, over the past few months? I don't think there's another Bitcoin company that's really broken into the public consciousness, or the community consciousness in such a way so quickly.
Well, thank you.
And I think it's obviously a lot of that's driven by social networks and everything else.
Well, that's the cool thing about it, is that, we're all connected now. Like, most of the people in the world live in one place, and that's called the internet. Over 3 billion people have access to this place. We're all on it. Like, I'm talking to you guys right now over social media. I'm sending money to someone in Sierra Leone, and that's where ChangeTip comes in. It's like we're all connected, we're all sharing information, but we're still restricted by these physical borders. Like, I can't just send money in a minute to Sierra Leone, I have to get this person's address, make sure he has a bank account, make sure he can go find a Western Union. Like, it's ridiculous, but he can talk to me about it. So why can't we just add that financial layer? And we are. And that's why I think it's so exciting, is because we've been used to this friction, and now seeing it just happen without any friction is just so exciting. Like, the things that we can do with this. Yeah, I mean, when you add a group of very passionate people together, big things happen. And I think that the Bitcoin community is a very passionate group of people, and my team, especially within the Bitcoin community, we're obsessed with our work. So I think that's why, you know, when you focus really hard, you have your head down and like you're doing what you think is best, things just start to happen. So thank you very much for that. That's really kind to say.
So in terms of the different platforms, I guess I've kind of always assumed that Reddit was really the thing that was the most popular. That's kind of where it took off the most. But
yeah,
I'm intrigued to know if you've got any stats around that in terms of where you're seeing adoption really start to spike.
Yeah, Twitter has really taken off. Since I got on board, I like Twitter a lot. Reddit, for me, that was really where it was born. And Nick actually got his idea for ChangeTip from a Reddit tip bot. He saw this working on Reddit. He was like, that's so cool. And so he reached out to the creator, Nerdfighter Sean, and said, listen, we should build something like this, but for the entire internet, not just for Reddit. And the creator said, oh man, I don't want to do that. I just think this is kind of fun to do on Reddit. So Nick took over the journey and started working on that. Since I've gotten involved, we've seen a lot more adoption on Twitter. And with companies who are also looking for new ways to engage with their audiences that isn't through traditional, frankly, annoying advertising. So Twitter's really blossoming there as well. Of course, we've launched on Twitch, we've launched on YouTube, Google+. Discuss is this new one that, I don't know if you heard how we launched that. I just tipped someone on Discuss and he was like, oh my gosh. And then SoundCloud is coming out, and we have a lot more stuff in the pipeline. So we really are trying to build a micropayments infrastructure for the web. So we'd like it to be everywhere. So that would be cool.
Yeah, because I think that's particularly interesting to me. You took the investment from Pantera, whenever that was, and Pantera is obviously a high-profile investor within the ecosystem, and it's a seal of approval, if you like, or it's certainly it's a good sign when guys with that kind of intellect get involved in the business, I think, anyway. So going forwards, how do you see ChangeTip evolving going forwards? Is it are there other products coming out which will drive the microtransactions? Are you just trying to expand different platforms, or have you got something else obviously?
Well, personally, my focus is on charities, causes, donations. That's what I want to do. That's why I got into this line of work, and that's my life purpose, is reworking, as I said, the way that money flows around the world, and in my case, from the have to the have-nots, or at least like, let's try to level the playing field a little bit for people. So my project specifically is focused with Nick and another team member, Jen, on charities, causes, donations. And so how I see this starting is like we did with the Red Cross last week. It's something that people know. Everyone knows the Red Cross. They know the work they do. They know that they can mobilize quickly. But so, you know, getting everyone together to donate $1 or $2 instantly to the Red Cross, that's crazy. They called me and they're like, how do we have $6,200 in this account? Like, how did that happen? We didn't even run a campaign. I was like, oh, I asked people to donate to you because there was a disaster. And like, oh my gosh. So what we're going to see is this movement of charities going in this direction, applying this financial layer over social media because it makes sense. It's so inexpensive. It's instant, right? But the way I'd like to go is a step further is, okay, who's in Nepal right now who has access to social media, who can collect this money but cash it out, right? We're still facing this friction right now where I can send a ton of money to this guy in Nepal. He can have $5,000 sitting in his account, but if he can't actually use it in the Nepalese currency, it doesn't do anything. But I'd like to push towards more of a distributed charitable approach where we don't have to keep going through the Red Cross, even though, bless their souls, they do good work. Let me find someone who's a Bitcoiner on the ground in Nepal who will take the Bitcoin we've donated, transfer it into Nepalese currency, and then actually show us that he's bringing stuff, tarps, water, tin, food, medicine to these people. Because the Red Cross still hasn't gotten through. I don't know if you're aware of that. They have not gotten through these hills. So these people are still untouched. So that's that goal. We're going to really push forward on charities, causes, donations. And then, of course, the engineers love to build, and they want to see tipping on different social platforms. So I can't talk about what's coming up, but just stay tuned. There is a lot coming out from ChangeTip in the future, which I'm really excited about.
Cool.
Do you guys want to see anything? Do you have any ideas? I love feedback.
I had one question.
Yeah.
I had one question about, I think there was, on Reddit, there was something along the lines of ChangeTip bot reaching capacity at some point, and I'm just wondering if that's anything to do with your sort of off-chain transactions. And some people mentioned perhaps that you might go to some side chain kind of back end. Is there anything you can tell us about your sort of technical sort of back end upgrades you might be considering?
Sure. So ChangeTip itself was built from the beginning to be an off-chain ledger. And this was a decision by Nick for many reasons, although we've had some strong discussions around it. The amount of time it takes to send a transaction now is 10 minutes. So that means instantaneous tipping. For new people who are getting involved in Bitcoin, they don't understand, this 10-minute confirmation time. He wanted it to be instant and free. And those were the two things he was really sold on doing: instant and free. I don't want to pay a mining fee, which has just gone down actually, but it used to be 4 cents to send 2 cents or a cent. I don't want to do that, and I don't want to have to wait. So it was built as an off-chain ledger, which would then communicate with the blockchain. So he likens it to sitting down to play poker at like on a poker site. You do one transaction when you get to the table, you play your hands, and then as you step away, you do another transaction to the blockchain, and that's how he likens it. Once you're in the system, instant and free, and then when you cash out or when you deposit, it communicates with the blockchain. Now, I'm a hardcore Bitcoiner. I'm like, we need it on the blockchain. That's the whole point. Like, what is this internal ledger stuff? And do sidechains really challenge that? And there has been a lot of shift to, okay, choice is a good thing. Perhaps we should offer people to choose whether they'd like to do on-chain, and they understand there's a 10-minute wait and there is a fee, but they have the option of doing that. Or they can use the internal ledger, which is instant and free, but at least they have the choice. So I can't really talk any more about that, but just so that you know, this is a conversation that we often have as a team. And yeah, does that answer anything for you?
I was just going to say that is a brilliant idea. Give people the choice. Perfect.
Choice is really important. That's for me the point of Bitcoin is give me another choice other than Federal Reserve Note USD. Just saying that I can use to work with myself. Anarchist streak.
I have a question. I'm not quite sure. I do use ChangeTip. I haven't really looked into your settings and stuff like that recently before. I mean, I had a problem trying to tip somebody money for a Reddit gifts situation that we used to run. And I realized that you have limits on your tips. Can you remove that, or is it a special request, or did you actually remove it on purpose so people can lose all their money for that? So I remember the old tip bot used to be like there was no rules against it. But like I tried to send like $30 like 5 times before I realized it was because of the maximum amount on my account.
Right.
Is that limited? Is that a setting that can be changed, or you plan to remove that in the future? Or I thought I was under the impression that it was a fixed hard limit that you've implemented. But is there for the marketing appeal? You see, I mean, thinking back, there was this guy that tipping like thousands of dollars to people for no reason and stuff. For a marketing perspective, it's really cool, but from a security perspective, it's not obviously. So, I mean, is that possible to get removed on independent accounts?
So the point of ChangeTip is to build a micropayments infrastructure. Micropayments have typically been $10 or less, but we use $25 or less. So everyone has a $25 limit off the bat. We are considering putting in place some risk factors so that if you have, for example, there are a lot of people who start a Reddit profile, start a Twitter profile just on that day and move money around in ways that isn't safe for the platform and safe, for themselves in a money sense. I don't want to say that they're money laundering, but there's some suspicious transactions. So how do we enable people like you and myself who have a 7-year-old Facebook platform or like a 2-year-long Twitter account to register for something and get an approved limit that's higher than $25 because we meet certain risk factors? That's a good question to ask. You can apply now to raise your limit. As you saw, some people were donating $100 to the Red Cross over Twitter. One company donated $1,000. You just have to email in and say, this is who I am, this is what I want to use the money for, and then we can approve you. We just need a couple know your customer details to do that because it is moving money around. But yeah, the typical limit is $25 for now, micropayments.
So I'll never think about it.
Pardon me?
I might look into doing that. I never realized the KYC regulations around it.
Yeah, you know, we're still a company, and so that's just one thing, is that we're looking to, you know, bring Bitcoin out to new people who don't know about Bitcoin yet and teach them about what this is and what this can do for our world. But we still have to, you know, stay within some constraints that are on us, which, you know, is what it is. But you can always email in and we'll help you to raise your limit. Thanks for the question.
So in terms of microtransactions, one thing that I thought would be interesting to bring up, there was there's obviously the blog post by, I can't pronounce his name, but Emin Sur.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. He's obviously pretty well respected, but was very outspoken about ChangeTip for a variety of reasons.
Absolutely.
But I think part of what he was saying was, interestingly, when you get into microtransactions, then if you're tipping somebody a very small, insignificant amount of money, it's almost offensive. Now, I'm not sure I agree with that, but I'm interested. I presume you don't agree with that at all, but I just wondered if there's obviously been a lot of discussion around some of this. Well, is microtransactions really about, you know, a fifth of a cent, if you like, or is it more of a replacement for a like, and therefore should be a little bit more, or I don't know. Do you have any particular view on that in terms of how small is too small for?
Yeah, it's a great question, because you know, around the world, many people don't even tip, right? They don't even have the notion of tipping. I was on this flight with this person from New Zealand. He's like, we don't tip. Like, tipping is just not part of our culture. So where we do tip, we have an idea, a social construct of what tipping is. It is, you know, in Canada, it's 15% of your total bill. And like, if you leave anything less than that, that's offensive. It's probably more offensive to leave a couple of pennies than it is to not tip at all, right? So this is how we look at tipping. Online, is the intention for people to insult by throwing penny shavings? If that's the intent, then I don't like that at all, right? And if we're looking at tipping something for content, we have this idea that it should be worth something, not just like a little bit of money. And this is where it's difficult, because for me, I don't like making rules and coming into a community and saying, this is what you work around, this is not allowed, this is not allowed, sorry, you have to do it this way. What I prefer to see is the way people use it and offer them a choice of the way people use it. But what's really important is also this feedback. I think Emin had amazing feedback. I mean, it was a strongly worded article, like, we must die, but his feedback is really important, right? Like, this is what we have to be listening to. So in terms of microtransactions, if you were to pay a fraction of a penny every moment you're on someone's blog, and by the end of a half-hour blog reading enjoyment experience, you send that person $1, that's completely different than tipping someone a fraction of a penny, right? So we have to have the option of both amounts sent. But in a social way, I think that there should be perhaps some guidelines that the community can decide on and come up with on, is it respectful or responsible, or is the intent there to offend when you're throwing penny shavings at people? Personally, I don't like to see that. The people who I have approached who are doing this say, no, Victoria, what I'm trying to do is just give them a little bit of Bitcoin, like 100 bits is something. And look at what 10,000 Satoshis bought a couple years ago. Now that's worth millions. How can you say that 100 bits is nothing? That's a lot to me. And so it's a very delicate balancing act, you know? So feedback is appreciated. I do listen to everything, I read everything, and I take everything, and I really, you know, meditate on it. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think there should be limits on?
I mean, for me, and everyone will have their own view, I couldn't care less. If somebody wants to give me some money and it's insignificant, if I'm really that offended, I'll just not claim it.
Right? It's like, he's giving you money. It's still money. He's still giving you something.
It's just a thanks for doing something, or whatever. I don't know. I've seen the effect of sending ChangeTip to people completely out with the Bitcoin community, who then go, oh, wait a minute, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand how I can send something without friction from person to person. So I'm in favour of it, but I don't know if anyone else here has any particular views.
I kind of wanted to say, with the really small microtransactions, I see it as like, hey, here's a small amount of Bitcoin, which is worth nothing now, and potentially one day could be worth a lot of money.
Even then, it's still money. Like, you shouldn't sniff it in any way.
Absolutely.
Like, as we've got a saying here, right, which is if you look after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. So I think if you don't take it, then you're just daft, basically.
And I guess the other thing is, since you introduced, I can't remember when you introduced this, but the ability to automatically redirect anything that somebody sends you to a charitable account. So, you know, if somebody sends you something insignificant, it doesn't matter if you set up an auto-direct to RNLI or whoever it might be.
And that's kind of how I looked at it. I was like, okay, if you're really that upset about someone sending you money, I can't understand that, but I can understand how you could be upset like that, and that's completely fair.
Sure.
The thought counts, so you're still understanding that someone has taken the time to send you money, but then just allow it to do some good on your behalf. No harm done, I hope. But yeah, anyone else have any comments about that? Or
Well, it must be a cultural relative thing, because Scottish, people throwing money at you is not an insult. So I can't see it, and actually it's all relative. I've got a friend who's working in Manila and she earns like £1,000 a year or something. So a few pennies would be loads to her. I can just give her that.
yeah.
I can't imagine being offended by people giving me money, even if it was a tenth of a pence.
Some people are, and that's the thing is, if we're building something that a community uses, we really want to make sure that we're listening. And if people are offended by this, let's change, but let's change for the right reasons, not because one person has fear about something. So it's important to dig in and yeah, I mean, there was a lot of feedback in that article that he wrote. I'm not sure if you guys read it. A lot of good feedback, a lot of stuff that I'm like, no, I don't agree with that. I don't think there should be any limits around who I can tip when. If I want to tip Oprah a beer, I'm going to tip Oprah a beer because I want the ability to do what I want with my money. That's why I'm in Bitcoin. Don't tell me what to do. Let me do what I want. Like, let me use my own, intellect to decide what I'm doing this for. So I don't like rules like that, but sorry.
I think the best way to deal with aggression towards a small tip would probably just be ask for it back and then give it to someone else.
Yeah. Okay, I'll cancel it. Sorry, no harm done. Sorry, going this way now.
You mentioned the term, I think, the human gave the gift. I'm envisaging that the machines will be giving most of the tips. Do you agree?
You mean the bots?
Well, like maybe a proxy for my artificial intelligence deciding how I felt about reading the blog, executing automatically the tip.
Okay, sorry. Let me understand the question. So what you're asking is, in the future, you think that artificial intelligence will be sending gifts? Is that accurate, or did I miss? I can't quite hear very well.
In the future, but fairly soon, I would say.
Yeah. Sorry, Elon. I think AI is going to start doing. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, I really think that the future is in our hands right now. Like, we're at this very pivotal time, and this is the cool thing about these platforms is that we get to decide where they go and what they do, right? Like, this is what I'm seeing being so close to Silicon Valley. People are just trying to figure out how to move forward, right? And like what the best way to move forward is. And that's why feedback like this is so important. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming, yes, artificial intelligence will be giving gifts in the future. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
But it just seems to me that the human attention is so small that you tire yourself out tipping when you're at full speed. So to give it the full essence of your worth that you're sort of tokenizing right now, that you spend all your time giving tips and not giving substance or thought to the article.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Competition. So you wouldn't want to spend half your time in the tip experience when it take you half your time to read it.
Yeah, I mean,
I felt about reading the article, and I'm just saying, oh, that's a 2 cents tip and that's a 5 cents tip because it knows how my sensor in my arm is.
So you give a ChangeTip or something like that.
Very futuristic. Yeah, I feel good sending money. That would be a little terrifying. I don't know. Have you seen that movie With Time where they they have to keep loading up their time, otherwise they'll run out of life source or something? Yeah.
Charlie Brooker or something from that.
Justin Timberlake was in that one. Yeah. I like the idea of control.
Life
credits.
Yeah, life credits, yeah.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I'll send you a link later.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you use the platform, really. And like, I tip people all the time because I deal with a community full of people who are just constantly, they're all about Bitcoin right now. And, you know, I'm a big Bitcoiner. So they just want to keep showing people Bitcoin. That's their impetus for using the platform. But a lot of people I see in our feeds use it when they really like content, and I love that. I love they can do that. So yeah, it's just a really fascinating time to be working on something like this.
Sorry, excuse my ignorance on it, but does gift things come into account? You know, so if I make donations, almost want to make donations, but when we make donations, something RSPB, if I sign up to gift aid, then they get the tax back as well. So it's even more.
I'm not actually sure what the situation is in this country, and I'm guessing it's different in America anyway. But it's something.
Bitcoin tax? What are you talking about?
Well, how is Bitcoin treated in Scotland? I don't actually know the answer to it. Is it an asset, property, income? Is it tax right now?
Private money, I thought was the last one.
Yeah,
I
so
don't think you have to declare it yet, do you? Not at all. It's not regulated. It's how you
so it's not like in the
If you
US.
buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, pay on the capital gains.
Oh yeah, on the actual money.
You pay on the profit, and you can declare capital losses and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, 20%. But I think things will obviously be moving over here. There's all sorts of things going on with, I mean, the last budget, whenever that was, 6 weeks ago, and they were coming out with some fairly strong signals about money, 10 million going towards research of digital currencies, being split between 5 universities across Britain, Turing Institute, I think, which is a combination of 5 different universities. And yeah, they're definitely, London in particular is definitely making a play to be Bitcoin central, I think, in terms of.
And the Isle of Man is pretty big
yeah,
there
absolutely.
too.
Isle of Man as well. And I was hearing today something about the Isle of Man where looking at maybe putting blockchain together for company registration. And that was, I think that was just announced about
Wow.
4 o'clock today, but I don't know the details of it. So yeah, so I think there's lots going on over here, which is fascinating as well. But I suppose, taking it back to the ChangeTip product, one of the questions I had is regarding the monikers. So just for, I'm sure everybody's used it here, but just in case anyone's watching this video and hasn't, then you have the ability to send money, whether it's a donut hole or you know, whatever else. Different monikers represent different monetary amounts. You have the ability to make up your own as well, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Complication. But how many people do you see actually do that and kind of engage with it? And do you ever have to censor some of the things that people put as monikers? Or I don't know, there's all sorts of variables in there that I suspect from a...
I've seen it all. I can't even tell you some of the things I've seen people make. I can't even on air. A lot of people love them because it's, now you have the picture of, one of our engineers said, that was my favorite thing when I started testing the platform. He was completely new to Bitcoin and micropayments, and so he was just playing around with the product. And he sent his aunt a tulip, and he had sent her like 25 cents or, you know, $1 before. But when he sent her this tulip, she just pictured his hand coming out of the computer and handing her this flower, and she was so delighted. And that's the big feedback that we get, is people just love the idea of getting sent something that has value attached, even though at the moment we can't redeem it for a real donut or a real cup of coffee. But yeah, a lot of people like them. They're my favorite part. And you can make them so quickly that, like, we do happy hour. Do you know what Slack is? Do you have Slack? Do you use Slack? So we have this Slack group full of people who love ChangeTip, love Bitcoin. We just all talk. And I have happy hours like every week where I'll just make people's favorite drinks and like give them drinks. And we just like all cheers. And it's so much fun. It's just like awesome. So it's like a virtual cocktail party.
Is that a public Slack group or is that internal within ChangeTip?
No, I mean, anyone can come in. It's just like a place away from Reddit where we don't get attacked by trolls. We're just like, we feel safe to have our little happy hours.
Yeah, because I work in a business in Codebase across the road from here,
Cool.
which is the UK's biggest tech incubator now.
Awesome.
And they brought in Slack a few months ago, so as soon as they did, I pushed them and they got ChangeTip integrated.
Nice.
So
It's
I'm
fun.
quite good at the start. But it hasn't really taken off in the way that I thought it might. But I think that's to do with maybe the awareness of Bitcoin in Scotland as opposed to anywhere else, which is a wider question.
Well, and thanks for all these tips. What do I do with them now? Thanks for the coffee. How do I get it? Like,
yeah, exactly. I was going to say, so we introduced it into the office, and I'm sure some of my colleagues will watch this video afterwards. And one of the complaints was, well, wait a minute, this isn't a real donut.
Yeah,
so,
thanks for the thought.
But no, I think it's an interesting thing. It's a way of personalizing a product and an experience in a way that we don't really get with other interfaces when it comes to money. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
People love them. It's one of the things that delight the most. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a question about monikers with regards to the idea of being able to set the moniker as a receiver. So I'm just thinking in like a coffee shop scenario, you could maybe pay for your coffee with a tweet at the coffee shop using the moniker latte, and the coffee shop themselves would set the value of latte to whatever they're selling the latte for.
Absolutely, and you've touched on something really phenomenal that many people don't think about. When I started at ChangeTip, this was one of the first things I said, this is gonna be amazing. Imagine if like this coffee shop can buy this word, right? And every time you tweet that word to them, it unlocks a coffee from them. And you're the only other person I've spoken to in the community who has had the same idea. I think it's just a beautiful thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I mean, it would work for charities as well, because you'd be like, hey, buy one mosquito net.
Exactly. Red Cross mosquito net is worth $10 when you use that word, pulls from your wallet, sends to the Red Cross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only problem
Props.
Damn it.
Congratulations.
Exactly. You get it. Yeah. And that's why we have these conversations. You know, another big point of Edmund's article was, you know, this company's way of monetizing is 1% on transactions. That's $600. I'm like, Edmund, think bigger. Like, this is a whole new landscape of ways that we can interact with money online. Think about it. Think about how brands are going to be using this, and like, you know, just. So I didn't want to come out with a response article because I knew that what we built would show the way that we were going to make things happen. But that's exactly a big part of this. So yeah, props.
It's almost a proof of concept, really, isn't it, for how microtransactions will develop going forward. Yeah.
I was interested on the corporate side. Is there anywhere else except Slack that's dabbled with it? You know, like,
Anything that accepts, pardon me?
you said Slack. What is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I forget, like the code Atlassian and
Jira and those kinds of things.
yeah, more they.
Not yet. I think that would be amazing if we can start integrating, like, think of the customer service experience, you know, when you're going through, I don't know if you guys have the same issues we have in Canada or in the United States with cell phone providers or, you know, telecom providers. It's brutal, you know, like you can't get through to a person. So imagine sending like, here, you know, here's, you know, 10 free minutes on us. Customer service support, that kind of way of using a system like this, it changes everything. And we're starting to see that kind of stuff, even with Bitcoin companies using us in customer service tickets to say thank you for your time and send a little bit of value. I think a deep integration with a platform like that, or on a social media side like Hootsuite, or on a back-end side like Zendesk. Do you guys use that for like customer support? That would be amazing. I mean, that just changes the whole customer service experience. Like right now, it's like, thanks for your time. We'll send you a credit that you can only redeem here. Imagine if you can send me lunch. You know, like I wasted an hour on the phone with you people. Okay, I get lunch. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, lots of potential. Good questions, guys.
See that passive aggressiveness there, and sending somebody to a place that's really low rated on TripAdvisor or something for lunch. You know, you go there, I didn't really like you on the phone there. 2-star place.
Perhaps it can be a choice. Like, I'm sending you $10. It's lunch as a moniker in my head, so I'm giving you lunch. You go pick the place you want to have it. Sorry for your time. Yeah.
I'm an account manager for a video marketing company. I just started, and I'm wondering if you have any advice in terms of how to market companies like ChangeTip through video, and whether you guys have any videos. I don't think I've seen any apart from the original animation, sort of motion graphics. Have you got any sort of like live actions, sort of yourself on camera explaining how ChangeTip works, or how do you go about marketing something as sort of technical as this?
That's a great question. And we have just brought on 2 marketing-oriented people for this very reason. Video content is so powerful, and it's a necessity in this business. We do have that cartoon film, and we do have a couple more technical, like this is how this feature works, like little walkthrough tutorials on YouTube that our new head of planning, Jen, has done. But we definitely need more video content. I came in as the 5th employee and had like this huge range of responsibilities from support to PR that I had to manage. And now that we've the team is built out and we're humming along, we're gonna be doing a lot more of that. I think the key thing for ChangeTip marketing is to keep them quick and relevant and focus on the benefits of the platform. Right now, there are a lot of very Bitcoin specific features. Like you can do this, and people who don't understand Bitcoin, don't understand micropayments, they're gonna dismiss that. So I think it's about staying very relevant and very clear and short, and many videos explaining different things. But I'm not a video marketing expert, so would love to pick your brain on that if you have any ideas.
Sure, well, I would have to think about it.
Yeah.
Nobody will answer that.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I have one thing to say, that like not just ChangeTip, I just mean like the Bitcoin industry in general on the internet. It's always motion graphics and technical explanations and like, hey, it's like money, but for the internet, it's like email for money.
Yeah.
There's no human element in there. Like I think Circle, to be fair, there's an interview with CEO of Circle somewhere out there on the internet. But other than like documentaries, like the rise of Bitcoin, like the Bitcoin companies aren't using their personnel, who are some of the most talented people in the world. Frankly.
You're right. You're right.
Putting them in front of cameras and allowing them to explain how awesome this is. Well, I suppose this one video works, but like having you explain how ChangeTip works in some promotional video, I think it's going to work a lot better because people connect to people, not animations.
I think that's a great idea. I had this idea last year where it was, this one commercial that would be online, would be less than a minute. It would be 3 different circumstances where Bitcoin is used, but in real world examples. So like, someone from Vietnam, like a lot of people in Canada who do aesthetics for women are from Vietnam. She's on the phone doing someone's nails. Hey mom, I sent you home lunch. Boom. What? Like how can you send someone home lunch in Vietnam? But that is a use case, right? Or, me traveling with my friends in Europe and I don't have any euros, but I pay the bill in Bitcoin because Bitcoin's an international currency, right? Or I love what someone's done on YouTube and I tip them $1 and that person is now making more money from tips than from ads. So just like very short cases showing the benefits of Bitcoin, not the features. Like no one cares, no one understands or is gonna care at this point what off-chain or on-chain means. They don't understand the blockchain. So tell me what is the benefit of this. Is it convenient? Is it international? Is it inexpensive? Is it secure? Right? And then we lay those out in film. I think that would be very powerful. And you're right, it is still kind of this like faceless technology, right? We need to put more faces on it, more people. Like, I'm into this, it's cool, come join.
So I'm conscious we've probably got, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes tops left.
Okay.
One topic that I really wanted to speak about, or at least kind of float out there, is about women in Bitcoin and kind of where we are in terms of community, how many people are involved, whether or not we have a more general problem in terms of engagement, or whether this is just a symptom of the kind of the feeder communities, if you like, that are interested in Bitcoin from whatever gender bias there might be, or whether or not it's just not an issue. My feeling is that it is something that we need to look at in some way. I feel slightly uncomfortable at every meetup when there's only maybe one lady here. So I'd be really interested to get your views on this, because there's been a lot of stuff in the press recently, and there's been a lot of stuff both ways saying it is an issue. It isn't an issue. You know, Branson's, or not Branson's, sorry, Summit that's coming up. Have you got any strong views on this, or anything you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, it's funny because I have so many female friends in Bitcoin that I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like just a basic Google search or Twitter search will pull up so many women in Bitcoin. So that journalist that did that, I think that it's a tough one. Let me back up. In tech and in finance, what I have found in my work life has been that males dominate both of these areas as well. Engineering, banking, high level positions like this have typically been a lot of male run positions. I see Bitcoin, I see women everywhere, and maybe that's just my perspective, but I don't, maybe it's because I like to focus on the positives instead of being like, we need more, we need more. I do think though that from feedback that I have gotten from women who have come into Bitcoin and left, that we have a real problem with just the community's engagement with each other in general. It can be a female-male thing, and females are different than males, right? We don't take, I get trolled every day. I get harassed and abused and stalked in my community position. It can be a scary position. I'm a strong person, so I'm like, whatever, like I can deal with you. But for a lot of people who aren't used to that kind of engagement online, and it's pretty bad, they're just like, I'm not doing this. Like I already have a hard time feeling comfortable with these things because I am one woman out of 10. And now I'm getting like these sexual messages sent to me, these abusive messages, and like these scary messages sent to me because I am a woman. That can be really hard, but that is a human thing. That is like men don't treat women like that. That is a personality thing. Like you don't treat anyone like that, but that definitely does put a damper on getting females into this space. But I do think on a positive note that when you enter this space, the females in this space are the most cooperative females I have ever met. We're like, take my hand, come here. We're gonna go here now. Or like, let's work on projects together. When you see things happening in the community, a lot of it is powered by women being like, we're gonna do this together, we're gonna do this together, we're gonna run this conference together, we're not going to that, we're gonna do this. And that's this underlying amazing network that I see, where I see these things happening in the media, I'm like, yep, that's Elizabeth, and that's Emily, and that's Sarah, and we pulled that together. So I think it's perspective, and I think it can be very lonely if you don't connect in with the network of females, and it's inclusive. No one's left out of this from a female point of view. But when you're alone on the outskirts and you're trying to get into this community, which is, you know, there's a lot of trolls, right? It can be a very scary and lonely place. So I do think there's a problem. I think it's bigger than like a gender thing. I think it's a human thing, and I think that needs to stop, frankly. That kind of abuse too. It's between men and men. It's between men and women. It's people to people. But if there are any women who want to get into Bitcoin, please send them to me. I will take their hand and like show them the way. Like I will get them involved in a good, positive way. And maybe that's what we need. More of like, yeah.
I think that's brilliant. I mean, we're looking at a few kind of initiatives in Scotland to try to have some kind of female-only introduction events to Bitcoin, and I'm not sure that's the answer to that, but it's
hard, right?
If there is a hurdle there, in some way to make people feel comfortable, and that's all it is.
It's tough because there was this female-only meetup group in London that my friend Rian was running, and you know, her point of view was, listen, like it's money. People already don't feel very comfortable talking about money. We're talking about money, and we're talking about tech. So it's very technical. So when you don't understand something, if you get someone being like, you're stupid, you don't feel inclined to come back and be vulnerable again. When you're with a group of women, it may be a gender thing, maybe not. Maybe you feel more safe. But then she got attacked for having a women-only thing. Like, can you do anything right these days, you know? So I'm not sure. I think that the very important thing is that the women are as visible as they can be, and they are open to saying, listen, if you have someone that you want to get into Bitcoin, I'm here for them. So she can choose her path. She has the choice of going here or going here. It all comes back to choice. You want to go to women's only Bitcoin meetup? Go. You want to go to one with men? Go. But at least know that you have these people around you who will like put their wing around you and bring you in a safe way. So that's what I tried to do.
No, I think that's great. I think you possibly have you certainly have the advantage of being around far more people within the Bitcoin community. So I suppose there's meetups around the world where there are a little bit of outposts of crazy folk to some people's views, and yeah, it'll be harder to get an equal balance of society through it. But I think it's something that we need to look at and be aware of. I'm not ever one for positive discrimination and all this sort of stuff. I think it's just about making sure that people don't have hurdles to investigate what the technology is, basically. But that's my view. I don't know if any other people have particularly strong views here, or whether it's just me banging a drum about it.
It's not just Bitcoin, it's right? I think you hit the nail on the head. Tech and finance tends to be male dominated. It just does. And I don't know why. Maybe because we were small.
It's a big topic. I mean, we could go for 2 hours talking about this topic, you know, like why are women underrepresented in, you know, these areas of academia? Why are they, you know, and then it's a huge topic. But I think the solution is just making yourself visible and open to helping others, men and women. There are some men that I've met who are nervous to get into it too because they have no idea what's going on with their money or with tech. So,
as a tip for you, if you did a women only Bitcoin, I suspect you get more men trying to come along.
It's like clocks, isn't it? Free drinks. Yeah.
Absolutely. These are great questions, everyone. Is there anything else I can answer or shed some light on? Yeah.
I heard Doug mention you took venture capital. I was wondering if you guys looked at Swarm, the Lighthouse project, crowdfunding, or doing your own Ethereum sale or made safe sale. Why you chose VC over these options?
So I think that right now in America, crowdfunding or selling your own security is still not, sorry, I have a friend over, is not looked at as a very legal way of raising money right now. It's still a little controversial when you're doing crowd funds. Ethereum, for example, when I used to write with CoinDesk, I covered the Ether launch, the sale. And you know, the terms and conditions are like, you're buying this asset with this other digital currency. There's no move from dollars to Ether. It's dollars to Bitcoin, Bitcoin to Ether, okay? So it's just Bitcoin to Ether, it's just cryptocurrencies. You are expecting nothing in return for this investment. You're not holding us liable. This is registered in a GmbH in Germany. Like you're giving us money, assuming that we're gonna build this platform. And so it's tricky because it's not regulated, right? You know, we like to say we don't want to be regulated, but when it happens that you've given someone 4 Bitcoin and you get nothing back, some people are going to be upset about that. Venture capital money is a different route. It is not crowdfunding from the community, right? It's now you have different people to work for and answer to. But I think that was a traditional decision done on traditional financing in the Valley instead of this new way that hasn't yet been tested. And frankly, that we haven't seen much success with so far, right? Like the community came together and crowdfunded, what, 12 million for Ethereum? That money's gone, right? I think that account is drained. What's happened? So I'd like to observe. I have no comment on it. I have no judgment on it. I think that from ChangeTip's point of view, this hasn't been tested. This hasn't had the most positive reception. We're going to go with this form because we're safe and comfortable with this, and this is how it's traditionally been done. That would be my point of view on it. Personally, I don't have any judgments on it yet. I'm just kind of observing.
My background, I used to do a lot of investments with early stage tech companies, VC and business angels. And I think the big benefit over crowdfunding, although not across the board, but certainly is the smart money coming in to be able to sit on the board to guide it in a different way. And I think in ChangeTip's particular case with Pantera and the guys there, the team there, they're fully committed to the sector. They've got deep knowledge and everything else, and I think that's really compelling. I would find it very hard to turn down something like Pantera if they want to invest in my startup. If I was in the scene, but yeah, that's just my view. But yeah,
they're definitely different routes, and they both have their They both have their pros and their cons. Lightlist, I love what Lightlist is doing. There's something coming out with them as well. I took them out for lunch the other day, and I was like, this is beautiful. I love this. Let's integrate somehow. And that's different. That's crowdfunding, I think, for good. You know, like, you know where the money's going. There's a purpose there. And you can crowdfund for a business, but I like to do a lot of due diligence, and there's a reason I didn't buy Ether. I'll just say that. So I love the team, Ethereum's team, some of the brightest people I've ever met, but just investigating that sale, I was like, no, I'm not going to touch that one. We'll just let that play out.
Yeah, it's bringing lawyers out on cold sweats. I think some of these free issues, well, not free, but issues of securities that unregulated individuals and everything else. It's yeah, it's a brave new frontier.
It really is. It really is.
Oh, sorry, words. No, I misunderstood. Sorry.
Does anybody have any other questions?
It's about all these companies investing in digital currency, like Apple Pay and then IBM trying to develop their own digital currency. Do you think that this somehow threat some new services or Bitcoin, or it's just something that's not going to work? Or, I don't know. Are we going to have like several digital currencies?
Do I think that there are going to be many digital currencies? Is that the question?
Well, all these companies are investing into IBM this week, and they're investing heavily in research.
IBM?
IBM, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Apple Pay, and then all these companies are trying to
Yeah, I mean, digital currencies are the future, right? Like for sure. The difference between something like Bitcoin and Apple Pay and Google Wallet, or Apple Pay is a company that works on the US dollar, right? You need a bank account to work with those things. So this doesn't solve any of what we're trying to solve here. Bitcoin for me this is easy access to money for everyone who has internet. Someone in Sierra Leone can't use Apple Pay. It doesn't really solve the problems, but digital currency is the future. Like, I don't understand why we still have cards, like these plastic cards that I carry around. If I lose it, I have to call my bank. Just put it all on my phone. But we're at a very tricky place here because it can go one of many ways. It can go like, now we all have the same credits. They're all controlled by one company on our phone that we have no control over. Or we can go what I saw the Bitcoin route, which was I have control over this. I know what the rules are. I engage in this system. So, but digital currencies are absolutely the future, like absolutely. I hope we don't get to the microchip point though. That would be a little scary. Did that answer your question? Because I couldn't quite hear.
That was my question, but I don't know. I think for the lay people, there is no. If IBM decides to develop a currency, it's hard to see the difference between Bitcoin and the IBM blockchain. You know, I don't know. I understand the difference. I understand that it's not controlled, but from my grandma, that said it's absolutely no difference if you could do the same, if you have the same flexibility with all currencies. You know, I just, yeah. I just wonder if that would be a threat to the expansion of Bitcoin or services based on Bitcoin.
No, it's a good point. I think that, you know, especially being in America right now, one of my friends said, why would I even use Bitcoin? I'm like, Bitcoin isn't for you, dude. Like, you have a bank account. Like, you have money. You have all these things at your disposal. Like, Bitcoin wasn't, unless you understand that there's a problem with the system, which you probably don't even really care about, frankly. Unless you see that this needs to be changed for most people in the world, you're going to use Apple Pay. And that's okay. You have the choice. For me, I see big problems in the world, and I'm like, this is the root of the problem, so I don't want to even engage with that currency. But that's like my anarchistic streak again. So there are definitely major differences between Apple Pay, Google Wallet, and Bitcoin. But I think we're seeing a lot of cooptativeness behavior. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
Do you have a bank account, or do you solely operate in Bitcoin?
I don't have an American bank account. Up until a month and a half ago, I was taking full pay in Bitcoin, 100%. I'm doing as much as I could. I had my landlord accepting Bitcoin. Like, I don't use American cash. I don't want an American bank account. I'm very like hardcore like that. However, my exchange in Canada, Vault of Satoshi, shut down, and I am trying to hold out. I love my Coinbase people, but I'm trying to hold out on you know, getting a Coinbase account and getting a US bank account. But we'll see how long I can last.
Because Coinbase is essentially Goldman Sachs now, right?
And the Koch brothers or the Koch brothers?
Oh, sorry, my apologies. Circle is funded by Goldman Sachs.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Circle's definitely moved across with Goldman Sachs coming in now, and Coinbase with Stock Exchange or Docomo and all these companies. There's definitely this move towards the institutionalization, I suppose, of major Bitcoin players.
Can we reread the first paragraph in the white paper, please? It says, like, commerce on the internet has come to rely on third-party institutions. What are we doing? You know? So I'm trying to hold off on that. I still have my blockchain.info wallet. I'm trying to stay a purist. My exchange shut down, so I have had to take money via PayPal. 3 to 7 days wait, and the currency conversion is ridiculous. Which just, once you go to Bitcoin and you come back, it's so painful. You're like, this sucks. I want to stay in Bitcoin. It's so much easier. And I'll keep you posted on my travels throughout that. Anything else, guys, that I can help you with?
Anyone else?
Please feel free to get in touch with me. I'm always on Twitter. It's just at Victoria Van Eyck, at my name, or victoria@changetip.com. You can reach out to me anytime. If any of you are ever in America, like, hit me up. I'll take you out, like, introduce you around. And if I'm ever in Europe, we're thinking maybe of going to Ireland next. We went to Argentina to check out the currency problems, the economical problems down there. It's crazy. Yeah, it's 50% inflation in Argentina. Yeah, 50% every year. So yeah, hit me up.
So you're looking at going to Ireland for what? To get the tips, obviously. But,
we like exploring places that are you know, playing with digital currencies or with Bitcoin and that have like a Bitcoin hub. And so of course the UK is very, you know, we see a lot of action out of the UK, Isle of Man, that kind of thing. Nick Sullivan's Irish, so he wants to go to Ireland, probably for the Guinness. But we take trips, we take work trips where we go and just like lock ourselves in a room for like 2 weeks and just like pound out work and get to explore a different culture. So
well, yeah, put Scotland on the list. I'm sure we've got a few rooms here that you could be more than welcome to or hunker down in across the road. That would be great. But thanks very much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I had a really good time. It was great to chat with you all.
And no doubt we'll see you on Twitter and everywhere else afterwards. But
Beautiful.
thanks very much.
Okay, thanks guys.